Hello, welcome to James's pre-fight, post-fight MMA show, where we recap all the important things happening in the sport of MMA, and I, your host James, try to explain to you what's going on in the sport and make it as easy as 1, 2, 3 for you to understand. We hope you enjoy the show.
Or as the newly branded fight fans assemble, check out our nice, pretty graphics that we have for the tail of the tape. Last week we had a great week for the UFC 281, excuse me. Adesanya versus Pereira, very exciting. Good card. Nowadays MMA is sometimes not the most eventful sometimes, but what you really want to know is Mike back? And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, he is, and he was wanted back. Not like that guy Ray who just shows up for the comic book ones. So, welcome back to Mike for the MMA show.
Good to be back.
So this week is a pretty quick episode we're hoping for. We're hoping to give it to you quick, fast, simple analysis, and hopefully passionate, because Mike was very excited to do this episode. That has one of his most endearing fighters, Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. He's fighting Sergey Spivak on the main event in the heavyweight division. And it should be, the card is not the best, even compared to some of the other weeks. It's not the best, but we have pinpointed for you, the audience, 3 fights that we believe you should be paying attention to if you're a hardcore or you're a casual. So please enjoy the show, and hope you like it. So first fight on the card. So I decided the assignment was we're going to do the first fight on the main card and then the last two, the co-main event and the main event. So the first fight we have, it fights at the welterweight division with Jack Della Maddalena, who fights out of Australia. He's coming off of has fights in the UFC. He's very well known for his Dana White Contender Series debut. Very good. He's 12-2. He fights out of Australia, like I said, Perth. He's 26 years old, 5'11", with 73-inch reach. And then we have Danny Roberts, who's a little bit more, you could classify as a UFC veteran. I believe he's been in the UFC since, I think, 2016. He fights out of the United Kingdom. He's 35 years old, so there is a tad bit of age difference between the two of them. He is 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. And so that is the tail of the tape for this welterweight bout. So, Mike, when I told you to research this fight, these two guys, not the most well-known. Danny Roberts, a little bit more of a regular when it comes to the UFC. Della Maddalena, he's already made a big splash in the UFC, having 2 TKOs, especially his last one in Singapore. What did you see when it comes to this fight between these two?
Well, the first things first, I definitely noticed, and it's kind of a little more not about the fight itself, but about the momentum behind the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, the background of these two fighters. So, like, 2 things that are really hot at producing talent right now. So Della Maddalena comes from, he comes from the Dana White Contender Series. Danny Roberts comes from England. So 2 kind of like growing brands within the UFC that have really been creating a lot of names and shaking things up a lot. So I feel like it's a very interesting course here. Now, obviously, like, Danny Roberts isn't on par with, Patty the Batty or anything like that in terms of stardom. But I think it is an interesting thing, just from a, if you're into storylines and if you're into some of the smaller subsets of the sport, I think this is an interesting course for 2 kind of hot brands right now in terms of producing talent. And, the thing about this fight, obviously there's a difference in experience. Roberts does have more fights under his belt, but that also comes with the losses. He's not in a position, like, he's not red hot. He's not on fire. He's not particularly.
He's not in the best spot at all.
Right, he's not headed in right. He's not a budding talent right now. He's someone who's kind of up and down, trying to gain some footing, and he's being fed someone who is young and hungry and hasn't had a lot of fights inside the octagon to prove himself, and who's potentially a lot of people view him as a potential future star. Um, and I think the issue here in this fight is I think that there's not many, if at all, categories in which Danny Roberts is superior to Della Maddalena.
Yeah.
I think Della Maddalena, obviously, like I said, experience is like the real key difference here, in terms of UFC experience, and but the skill set of Della Maddalena, he's very, very well rounded for someone as young as he is and raw as he is in the UFC octagon. Um, really, really well rounded. His movement is really sharp. You see some good.
Well,
You see some
you
good
go.
boxing. I think he's going to have to physically mature and get stronger and whatnot to get better on the ground and protecting himself. Um, I think that's where Roberts could maybe take advantage of him. But it's hard to say, and obviously going into this fight too, Della Maddalena is an overwhelming favorite to win this one,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
minus 450 in some spots.
yeah, he's over a 400 point favorite, so he's really, and I think that that's just the expectation that he's going to be able to just get the hands in and
Yeah,
probably
I
take
would
him
agree
out
with that.
and finish him. And I know a lot of people are saying that, and definitely, um, can see this one going this way. But in the case of Danny Roberts, he's going to have to find a way to just, you know,
Do something different.
yeah, he's going to have to be. I think he's going to have to find a way to keep him down. He's got to avoid giving him momentum, giving him a spark. Now this is a
Yeah,
little different because this one's going to be like, in the apex, right? And it's um,
smaller.
yeah, it's gonna be a little different of an environment. Like this isn't like an overseas card or something like that. Like Roberts isn't in England, Madalena's not in Australia. Like there's no home
Yeah, yeah.
crowd, anything like that in this one. So I think this one's just gonna come down to who's able to keep it close and get their hands in, and I think that's gonna be Della Maddalena. And I ultimately think he's gonna get the finish, probably relatively quickly, but I think maybe it happens in the second round.
I feel like you cheated off of my notes, Mike, because we have a very similar outlook. I think what you said in the beginning was 100% right. It's just that the momentum's different. You got, you know, Danny Roberts. He's coming off 2 losses. I mean, he's coming off. His last five have last 3 out of his five have been losses. His last fight was kind of very I don't know how you say it, like disappointing, I guess. Like he didn't throw a lot. He looked kind of tentative, and then maybe that's his age, maybe that's the just a part of his career that he's in, but that's not where you want to be against such a young guy. And Delano Atlanta, he's gonna come forward, like you said yourself. He is like absolutely vicious with the hands. So how do you like you point out? How does Danny Roberts, the over plus 300 favorite, overcome this? I think you're exactly right. I think he has to do something. He has to kind of like put De La Maddalena like in an environment he doesn't know. So our question, and I think you said it, is how is he on the ground? He could be great or he could be bad. And Danny Roberts, that would probably be his best course to not getting just absolutely decimated in the beginning. But like you said, he's not really known for doing that. So it'll have to be something like the experience or the just the fact that he's been around a little bit longer. Maybe he understands that this is the area he has to take the fight. But even if he does understand that, he doesn't have the skill set. So, and I agree. I think De La Maddalena, it's most likely he gets a finish. Danny Roberts, he's not his chin hasn't been that great lately. Like we've seen him get knocked out a couple of times. Uh, and so I think you're right. I think the durability is going to be in question for him. And I think De La Maddalena, he's going to put the pressure. He's going to make him panic, and then he's going to find the big shot. I do think it's going to take him a little bit of time because Danny Roberts is. I think he's going to know that. But like you said, it's going to be the small cage. And I think De La Maddalena, he's going to find a shot. And it's pretty straightforward how I think both of us look at it. So me and Mike have Jack Della Maddalena continuing on his undefeated streak in the UFC, and to win via TKO in the second round. That's how we see it. So now we move on to the co-main event. We have Ion Cutelaba, the Hulk, versus Kennedy Nzechukwu, the African Savage. So Ion Cutelaba, a little bit more familiar to UFC fans, I would say. He's 16-8. He's fights out of he trains out of Vegas, but he is from Moldova. He is 28 years old. He is 6'1" with a 75-inch reach, and then Kennedy is 10-3. So there is a bit of experience difference between the two. He's from Nigeria, but he trains out of Texas. He's 30 years old, 6'5", with an 83-inch reach. So two guys, very powerful, I would say. Cutelaba, good wrestling, doesn't use it that often. Very powerful striker. A little wild sometimes, but Kennedy, I would say he's probably a little bit more disciplined with his striking, but I don't think he has like that meanness that Cutelaba has. And plus, his wrestling, we haven't really seen it against somebody like Cutelaba. So many things to talk about in this fight. A lot of layers going into it. Who do you think is going to get their hand raised here, Mike, for the co-main event?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think this is a pretty even fight. I think this is a hard one to call. And I think the key difference in this fight is going to be conditioning and cardio.
Okay.
I think that's the key. I think this is going to be a fight that goes into the final round. And I think this is one that it's a tricky one. I mean, because you could sit there and see like Cutelaba, right? You mentioned wrestling, and that's the key, right? Like, I think Cutelaba has to come out with a game plan. He needs to come out with a game plan, and he needs to hopefully have been working on conditioning and things like that. Because I do think that he, in order to win the fight, needs to keep it on the ground. But I could see this fight as it gets later on. I could see Kennedy like finding a second win and really being the more aggressive striker. And finding a way to finish the fight. Kennedy is favored to win the fight. My issue for Cutelaba really is why I think Kennedy has advantage. Is because of Kutelaba's last couple fights. They really haven't gone well. We saw him get shock tapped out.
Walker and Span,
it's kind of like, well, your strength is supposed to be as a wrestler and on the ground.
And then you tapped by Johnny Walker.
Right, you let yourself get tapped, the guy that got locked out of the arena. But no offense to Johnny Walker, but
we know he's not known for.
It says a lot about Kutelaba's potential vulnerabilities, and I could just see. I think Kutelaba's going to come out strong. I think he's going to take him down, but I can see this one going into the final round, and then it's going to come down to who's got more energy left, and I could just see that being Kennedy. I see him being more aggressive, more energized later in the fight than Cutelaba. And I think he's going to get a late finish. And it should be an interesting one. But I see Kennedy getting a late finish. With the hands.
So the analysis that you brought, I think it's very similar to what I think. I'm having trouble with the pick because, like you said, like Cutelaba, he just comes out there and it seems like he doesn't have a game plan. Like he just kind of like does whatever. And then, he has the wrestling, right? But I think you point out, like, even if you use the wrestling, you got to be able to have a game to it. Like, why are you doing it? And then, plus, like, he seems like a lack of focus, a lack of, I don't know, but, he gets submitted. So that's not a good sign either. Like, even if he gets his wrestling going, he's still vulnerable. Granted, Kennedy he's never submitted anyone in his UFC career and his MMA career. But we're just saying, like Mike mentioned, and I think it's a very good point, like, Cutelaba, he hasn't done very well recently. And then Kennedy, he's coming off of 2 wins. So that's momentum-wise, you got to take that into account. Plus, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Cutelaba has a 75-inch reach. Kennedy has an 83. So I think you pretty much painted the writing on the wall. You got Kutalaba, comes out hard, comes out fast. Kennedy, we've seen him weather storms against like guys like Carlos Ulberg. And then Kennedy, what does he do? He just picks it up. He's not, even though he's a very big guy, you don't see him swinging really. He picks his shots very well. And then he has that 83-inch reach. You're gonna think like he's gonna. And then Kutalaba himself, he's not the longest. He doesn't fight very long. So in terms of length, using his reach, he kind of just explodes. And by that point, his gas will probably be gone. So I do think. I just have a hard time thinking like Kutalaba's gonna get him down and like submit him. I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time thinking he's gonna wrestle him for 15 minutes when he barely wrestles for the whole fight against other guys. So I have to agree with you there, Mike. I think Kennedy's gonna win, and I like your sense that it's because he's gonna get tired. I just think that Kutalaba, I feel like the way he fights, he has to get finished if he doesn't win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I see it. So I'm going to agree with Mike. Me and Mike have been agreeing a lot this show. I hope we get our picks right because every time we seem to be on the same page, we tend to get it wrong sometimes. But so that's how we both have. We have Kennedy and Zichiku winning by late finish. Now, hopefully, we got through the first two fights quickly enough to really dive into this main event. I know Mike's gonna be watching very closely, and I'm sure a lot of MMA fans are. I have family members who are a fan of Derrick Lewis. So Derrick, the Black Beast Lewis, versus I didn't know this, Sergey Spivak, the polar bear. That's kind of funny. So Derrick Lewis, he's 26-10. He is 37 years old. He is 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. And then Sergey Spivak, he is 15-3. He is from Moldova, 27 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. So Derrick Lewis will have a 1-inch reach advantage going into this fight. Just to point out, Derrick Lewis, he is coming off of 2 losses. Granted, the last one he had, very questionable. I didn't think the fight should have been stopped. He's the Black Beast. So he's known for recovering. And Sergey Spivak is on a 2-fight win streak. He's won the last 4 out of his 5. So you can see the momentum going in. Spivak, slight favorite, and younger fighter, things like that. So those are things to take into account. And of course, Derrick Lewis will be the toughest fight he's ever had in his career. So, Mike, where do you see this going? This 5-round main event at heavyweight.
Well, first things first, I think we could sit there and say it's probably not going 5.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And this one's actually a really difficult fight to call because I think there's a lot of talk, right, about Derrick Lewis being finished.
Yeah, like washed, right?
Yeah, and look, he's 37 years old, right? Obviously, he's never been someone who's been known for their conditioning or
Yeah, he doesn't come in like the professional athlete, really.
Right. He's known for knocking somebody the heck out. And that's his style. And obviously age is a factor. That's kind of putting him, I guess, at this recent decline. I think that's the easiest way to understand it.
Okay.
But you also look at who he's fought, right? So it's
I was going to bring that up.
In like Cyril Gane, right? The guy is a freak. The guy's built like a sculpture. He's one of the most athletic heavyweights we've ever seen.
He was the favorite going into that Francis fight, so how highly people think of him.
Right, and obviously we saw what Tuivasa is capable of. And I mean, the elbow that Tuivasa hit him with was, good night. That hit me, I'd be in a coma. That was tough stuff. And the Pavlovich fight is what it is. People say it was an early stoppage, whatever. He got beat. Simple as that. And Pavlovich is 30, a lot younger than he is, and hungrier. And it happened. and
And
there's a lot
Pavlovich
of
is
times.
very, very good,
I mean,
in my opinion.
Pavlovich's only loss is to Overeem, so it's
Yeah.
like this is a guy who is definitely on his way up too, and it's not something to be ashamed of. I mean, obviously, Derrick Lewis needs to win, um, but so does Spivak. Like Spivak's 27 years old. Um, he's hasn't faced like he has a win over Greg Hardy on pay-per-view. Like he doesn't have like a great resume built up right now.
Yeah.
So I think they're giving him this fight as a sense like, okay, here's this guy. Derek Lewis is still like a draw. He's still a popular fighter. He's still very capable of finishing you. Um, and I think it's a good fight. Kind of like,
Mm.
okay, there's a passing of the torch, or is this, Derek Lewis is kind of like final, like hurrah, like all right, I still got it. I'm not going to be champ.
Hmm.
I'm not going to be top three, but I still got it, and I can still knock someone out. I'm still Derek Lewis. Like we kind of saw in the um, fight with Chris Dawkins, and you know, I think the problem here too is that Spivak is obviously a lot more well-rounded.
Yeah.
I think in regard to the 10-year age difference, too, but he's also a lot more well-rounded. He can keep Derek Lewis down and really like grind him out and get him tired.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be Spivak's key to victory.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Especially in a 5-round fight, I think.
yeah, early in the fight, Spivak's got to just tire him out and soften him up. Because I see this going either two ways, right? Spivak's going to do exactly this. He's going to take him down early. They're going to go at each other heavy, and then Spivak will get him down, wear him out, and then maybe find a finish in the middle of the fight. Or honestly, I think Derek Lewis might just come out and put him down quick. Like
That could happen.
I really see it happening. I think sometime in the first round, like he just comes out and just drops him. Maybe goes a minute. Like I could see that happening very, very likely. And I'm having a real hard time picking this one.
So I'll go through mine, and then you and I we could give it together as our pick. So I think very similar to you. Spivak, very well rounded, of course, experience, like you said, and then Spivak was like a grappler, kind of, and then his striking became like a lot better since very recently. And I think what you said is right about the passing of the torch. I also think when the UFC gives you an opportunity to fight Derrick Lewis, they're kind of trying to see like when you're in a fight with this guy, how can you navigate the danger? Like you get guys like Dawkins who didn't navigate it correctly, and then we saw what happened. And then we have guys like Gon who was coming up as well at the time, and then we saw what happened there, and he did the correct thing. So I think they're just trying to see where Spivak falls into that. And of course, it's an opportunity for Derek to get a win, but I think they're looking at like how the prospect will handle it. Um, I think I think you hit it on the point pretty much. I think Spivak like it's 25 minutes. He should try to get him down because that's a long time to be standing with Derek Lewis inside a smaller cage, and then they are heavyweights. I actually think there's the two ways it could go is Spivak takes him down, wears him down, and then he finds a finish, like you said. Or this is my favorite part about the Derek Lewis fight is you'll see guys they'll be getting him down, and they're like, "Wow, I have him under control. I got him mounted," and all of a sudden he'll just like explode like Godzilla, get up, and then we know it's heavyweight. These guys get tired when they grapple, and then Derek Lewis, you see in his face, he's like, "This is my chance." This guy's trying to recover from all that grappling, and he just starts to like go to town on people. I think that's something that's very, very, very underrated in his game, and I think a lot of fighters should try to follow suit. This guy's trying to recover. He's trying to shake things out. That's when Derek attacks. Or you get sometimes like guys will try to like they'll throw a jab, they'll keep throwing the jab, they'll throw the same thing over and over, and then bang, he clocks them. He kind of uses that little bit of like you're relaxed to find the opening for the strike. I think he's kind of like underratedly smart in my opinion. Derek Lewis may be one of the smartest heavyweights I'm saying, but uh, and then you got a guy in Spivak who's so young, he doesn't have a lot of losses. You never know, that could take place. Also, he could be kind of nervous. Like Daniel Cormier say he was nervous to fight Derrick Lewis. So you don't know how Spivak's gonna be. And then plus, like, so fighters, I feel like overestimate Derrick or they underestimate him. Like they go, look at this guy, like the way he throws, his athleticism is like so off. This fight's gonna be easy, and then all of a sudden, bang! It's a trap. Actually, he's actually much faster than you thought. His timing's a lot better. His IQ is a lot better than you thought. So, and then you got some guys who get afraid to fight him, like Ngannou. So that's how I look at it. I'm gonna be a pessimist, Mike, and you've known me for a long time. I am a pessimist. I just think that Derrick Lewis, if this was him in his absolute peak, I'll probably pick him to win. I would just think that the experience would be a huge difference. I think that even if Spivak could get him down, I don't think that means Spivak wins. Derrick would still have a great chance to win the fight. But I just think that Derrick Lewis, it just doesn't seem like time's on his side. And we've had so many great moments. Like I like to make the joke, the MMA gods, they don't want us to have good things sometimes. And Derrick Lewis, he has given us a lot of great moments. So I just think that his time may be up. That's what I see. So, what do you think, Mike? Have I changed your mind on anything?
There was an extra point I wanted to make first about a potential Spivak finish. And, if you go back to Spivak's early career when he was fighting in the Ukraine,
yeah,
he won a lot of his fights by submission.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at the betting odds, and Spivak is about a 250-point underdog to win by submission. And an interesting thing in the UFC, going back a couple of years, Spivak won against Tuivasa by technical submission at UFC 243. And I was thinking about this, and I was saying, like, a potential surprise move could be you'll get him on the ground and try to catch him slipping and some sort of, maybe an arm bar or something like that.
Like a quick sub.
Yeah, I could also see Spivak maybe trying that. And I'm sure Derrick Lewis is scouting that and is one of the other possibilities to be aware of. So I don't think but I do think it's something that's interesting, like something that might be unexpected instead of just Spivak knocking him out or Lewis knocking him out, vice versa. It's something for people to keep an eye on, both from an outcome perspective and a betting perspective. But I ultimately think I'm going to have to say Derrick Lewis wins this fight.
Okay.
And I think he's going to do it in the first round.
Okay.
And it's going to be entertaining. And Derrick Lewis is going to be Derrick Lewis. And everything's okay in the world. And everything's going to be all right. And
see, that's why I missed you last week, Mike.
Yeah, it's not over yet. A lot of people are saying it's over, but it's not over yet.
Yeah. I hope not. I mean, it's not that I don't like Sergey Spivak. It's just that Derrick has given us so many, great moments. I don't need him to win a title or anything, but, it'd be nice to see him get, some wins. And, even if he loses this, doesn't mean, it's over.
I mean, look, you have to build the next generation of talent. And if that's his role at this point, holding down, being the barrier from going to, the middle of the rankings to the top part of the rankings, if that's going to be his role in his last couple fights in the UFC, then so be it. That's also good for the sport and good for the division. Because obviously the heavyweight division needs depth. Right now, very badly. But I have a hard time. I mean, you saw in the Dawkins fight, I don't know.
He just pounced on him.
Yeah, I don't think Derrick Lewis is gonna fold here.
Okay. And I think one thing to bring up, since you brought up the Dawkins fight, he caught him so quick, and Dawkins is known for being very quick on his feet, fast, agile. Even though Spivak's very good, he's never been any of those things. So you never know. Maybe Derrick Lewis is thinking in the beginning of this fight, if he can't take me down, this guy's a big target. So that's something to also think, the athleticism between the two. And then plus people get legitimately scared when he starts coming forward. It's that's the interesting part with the experience difference. So I think that's pretty pretty much it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I always it's very interesting to always hear my co-host Mike with such emotional and such an emotional perspective as a fan, and to I always say to people, this is why I have Mike, because I'm picking against Derrick Lewis because I think MMA gods, they don't want us to have fun, but that's why we try to balance each other a little bit. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. We enjoy making it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's how we get these nice, pretty new graphics that we've been doing. Hopefully, we could buy better mics as well. And also subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We should have it down in the description. Even if you don't listen via podcast form, it really helps us if you do. We could up the quality of the show, and it'll really help us just get out a better product, and more often. So thank you guys for listening, and see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like what you were listening to, please subscribe to Fans Assemble. And if you can, please give us a rating. Do it for the audio world. They need you.